Wood, welcome for the final time to qualifying for the International GTOpen.
Yeah, we have 29 minutes on the clock today. As you said, it's quite cold. The pit straight is totally in shadow because the sun, although it's risen, it's still quite low in the sky. So warming up those tyres is going to be the most crucial thing in this session. Of course, in addition to the traffic, because we have 29 cars on track. We've got the entirety of our GTOpen field, which is split into 3 classes, Pro, Pro-Am and Am. And then our GT Cup Open Europe field, which has the Pro-Am class and the Am class.
29 minutes remaining. There's 29 cars in the field for this final round of the championship. Very cool here this morning, attempting to get heat into the Michelin tyres. It will take a couple of laps. You just got a glimpse of the newly crowned champion, Michele Beretta. There's the Balf Motorsport car. Adam Carroll behind the wheel, the Northern Irish driver. About to set a time here this morning. One of the 2 AF Corsa Ferraris coming out onto the track. Jim Pla took pole position in this car yesterday. Thomas Drouet is behind the wheel of the ACA Sport 87 Mercedes. It was a Mercedes 1-2 yesterday. Certainly a circuit that suits the German mark.
Yeah, you've got a big heavy braking zone at turn 1, which with these front engine cars, you've got more of the weight over the front axle, so that's going to really help with the braking and the traction there. But we've seen in the past, Ferraris have done very strongly here, Lamborghinis as well, particularly over the last few years with the Vincenzo Suspiria racing team, and the McLarens, previously campaigned by Teo Martin Motorsport, but we have Optimum Motorsport here this year, which actually secured one of the titles yesterday.
Yes, Brendan Ireeb, the American, and Ollie Milroy for Inception Racing. Optimum Motorsport took out the Pro-Am Championship. The McLarens they were competitive, but they did have probably not the cleanest race. Nick Moss having a moment early on in the race, being turned around. It was a good recovery as Christian Korsanowski comes across the line in car 5. Nicolas van Dierendonck, the Belgian, in car 53, just behind, racing in the Cup class. Christian Korsanowski, the young Polish driver, in car 5, sharing that car with Stanislav Jedlinski, Central European champion of the past couple of seasons, one of 2 cars for the Olymp Racing team, the all-Polish team, all Polish drivers. Jan Lauritsen in car 54, out on the track as well in this early stage of the qualifying session. The Belgian, who is doing the race solo this weekend, one of just, I think, 2 drivers, Fernando Fortes. The Brazilian for 360 Racing, he is the only other driver who is doing both stints. No co-driver this weekend. Jan Lauritsen in car 54. As we look at car 9, this is yesterday's race-winning car. Ethan Simeoni and Martin Kodric, the Canadian-Croatian combination, took a sensational victory yesterday afternoon. Their 2nd win of 2021 as the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari with the HP Racing International Lamborghini right behind. Nicolas van Dierendonck just gives way to the 17 Green Tiger. Looking for a good performance for HP Racing in this final round of the championship. What a beautiful sight this is here in the northwest of Spain, the city of Barcelona, the final round of the International GT Open Championship. Stefano Bozzoni had an interesting race yesterday, brought out the safety car. It's Eugenio Pisani behind the wheel for qualifying this morning. Had an off in turn 16, trying to make way for the quicker GT3 cars, as the 93 Poparo Motorsport of Daniel Diaz Varela and Jean Font go through. So let's hope the 44 Porsche has a cleaner race here this afternoon.
And we have our first lap times being set by our AM-class runners, Christian Korsanowski and Oswaldo Negri, 1 minute 48 and a 1 minute 52. That is around 7 seconds off what we're expecting to see. One of the Mercedes back on track. In fact, Thomas Drouet has already gone back into the pits after he was the first of the GTOpen cars out, finally putting the wheels on one of the Inception cars. So actually, many of the GT teams are expecting to fight for pole, leave it very late to actually come out on track in qualifying. Vincenzo Suspiria, I think, left it until the final 6 minutes of Q1 yesterday morning, and that, still works out well for them. They got into the front row. Now following the 24 Porsche. Also had a bit of a tricky time in the first stint yesterday, but then had a very good second stint and came out on top in GT Cup Open Europe.
Yes, Maciej Liszowski and Maciej Blacek leading the GT Cup class. in the championship. This is the 93 Mercedes of Diaz Varela and Font. So many Mercedes, they seem to be ubiquitous at this final round, as we've had our first car with a lap time deleted for track limits. Oh, it's almost a curse word, those two words, track limits. We hate to hear it. It's not too much of an issue here at Barcelona, because instead of acres of bitumen runoff area, for the most part, there's gravel on the exit, so it's self-policing.
Yeah, it was our provisional poleman though, Christian Kozanowski. He's now down to 17th place with no recorded lap time, a bit like Nikita Mazepan in free practice 3 yesterday at the USGP. Although he's now just gone back on top of 1 minute 47.4. That puts him almost a second clear of who was Hugo Delacour, but now Osvaldo Negri's gone second place, so he's 8/10 off our provisional pole. So we've got the top 5 are the GTOpen cars, but 2 of them are in the AM class. So very interesting that we've got our 2 AM runners leading the way at the moment. And you can see the Mercedes now really slowing it down to find some space on track, avoid the traffic, and then accelerate down the pit straight. However, you're going to have less speed coming onto the straight by doing that, and you don't know who's coming out the pits at the end of the straight, so you might end up in traffic anyway.
Daniel Diaz Varela winds up for his first flying lap. This is Adam Carroll, the Northern Irishman in the Balfour Motorsport Audi R8, the sole Audi racing here this weekend. They had a reasonably good run yesterday, a strong finish to the race. Car 22 looking to qualify inside the top 10. It is not a circuit that really does suit the Audi. You can hear that V10 engine screaming. They're revving it to well over 8,000 RPM. Adam Carroll, of course, sharing the wheel with Sean Balfe, Balfe Motorsport, former GTOpen international champions, a highly experienced combination. Can I technically say this, the all-British team, Adam from Northern Ireland and Sean from England. I know we're pushing the limits there.
Team, United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and that is why he looked a little bit nervous on track there. Had to go past the number 27, which is being driven by...
It's one of the Brazilian cars.
Oscar Aristot. I think he was showing with Fernando Forte, potentially. The Porsches actually had quite a bit of action this weekend, not battling for position, but just getting in the way of other people, and that's purely because the GT Open Europe class and then the GT Open cars are around 5 or 6 seconds faster, depending on what the conditions are. But it does mean if you encounter them at the wrong section of the lap, it's not going to end up well.
It's almost a touch of deja vu when we think back in the days of Group A touring cars, when we had different categories, different classes all racing together. There is a tinge of that. It's sort of shades of different classes, a race within a race, but there is a significant speed difference. But that is what endurance racing is about, particularly here this weekend as we look at the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes on screen at the moment. Loris Spinelli behind the wheel for qualifying this morning.
And one thing these GT3 drivers won't have experience of is actually being laps, because they're normally the leading class. But in the coming years, we're expecting GT3 to be adopted by the ACO and the Le Mans 24 Hours. So potentially these drivers are learning the tracks in series like GTOpen. They're going to learn how to do driver changes. They're going to basically understand what endurance racing is about. Obviously, these races are only 70 minutes, but you still get a good idea of how long a stint's going to be and how to look after the tyres. And then they can take that experience into the biggest races on the planet.
Loris Spinelli in the 47 Mercedes down through the chicane. The future of GT racing, certainly in the International GT Open Championship, it is looking very bright. The 2022 calendar has been announced in the past few weeks. We will allude to that throughout our broadcast in the race this afternoon, if we get a chance. Needless to say, we get underway on the first day of May, down on the beautiful Algarve region in the south of Portugal. Round 1 of the GTOpen Championship for 2022, as Loris Spinelli goes through in a repaired Mercedes. If you saw our race yesterday, you would have seen that there was smoke coming off the car. We had a chance to go down and look at this car in the box yesterday. Spoke to Marco Antonelli, simply asked him what was the problem. He says, come and have a look for yourself. They got hit right on that side of the car, which is on your screen. I won't say who they blame because, well, we'll take one word from one driver. We didn't get a chance to verify that with the other. Needless to say, the exhaust was absolutely smashed inwards. So there was carbon bodywork actually starting to melt. That's the smoke we saw. And they suspect around about 5, even 10% of power, which is probably around 30 to 40% of the power. So it was a good result just to bring it home to the line with what was a damaged car. That's why it was smoking. And the bodywork of this magnificent Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes, it was actually starting to melt any longer, and there would have been serious body damage simply because the carbon was starting to burn.
And Spinelli is going to cross the line. I think he might go up to first place. He does at 1 minute 43.599. He demotes Thomas Drouet, who was provisionally on pole, and Joe Osborne, who was the faster driver before that. And that is the Vincenzo Sospiri Lambo, I believe, one of those two cars. It's the number...
It is the newly crowned champion.
Yeah, so obviously there's a bit of damage on the front left, and I thought I saw that as it was coming down the pit straight on the previous lap. It was almost flaking away on the front left with carbon, so potentially that's just the splitter being damaged. And,
wow, and that's why.
That is going to be a fine for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, because that's an unsafe release. They weren't looking what they were doing there. And it's a shame for the Porsche there as well, because
wow,
more likely to have damage on the rear right, and the team there actually almost got hit as well. So back to the action on track. I think we can rule that Vincenzo Sospiri, and we have. It's being wheeled into the garage. So the number 63, Michele Bretta, which is
a newly crowned champion, is looking at starting from the back of the grid for race 2 this afternoon.
But you know who else is on the back of the back row at the moment? It's Andy Soucek in the Lechner Racing Porsche, which was of course their main title rivals. So potentially we're going to see charging efforts from both of those crews in the race this afternoon, but we're following the form car at the moment, the number 9 Mercedes, with Ethan Simeoni in this, who's done, well, he did Monza, and now he's in Barcelona. I don't think he had any other European racing experience prior to his GTOpen vow, so doing a very good job of, appearing in this series and just being immediately on the pace, because most of these drivers have been to Barcelona 1,000 times, either for winter testing, for races in GTOpen, or parties, because Barcelona's a great place to go if you want a holiday.
Or watch one of the world's great football teams.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly partial to that, but it is certainly famous for that. The 1992 Olympic host city, as we look at the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini, which took the title yesterday from hero to zero. Incidentally, the car that it ran into was the newly crowned Cup class champion as well. So can you believe what you've seen this morning in qualifying? Maciej Blaszek and Maciej Leszczowski coming into pit lane, the VSR Lamborghini, the 63 car, which took the title in the GT Cup Open Championship, or GTOpen Championship yesterday. The 2 championship winning cars crashing in pit lane in qualifying.
That's kind of the second year or third year in a row that's happened, because we had our International GTOpen Championship be decided previously by the top 2 colliding, and therefore the champion ended up in a crash. And then the year before that as well, there was a lot of tyre smoke at Monza in 2019. I think the Emil Frey Racing Lambo came through with that. But in GT Cup Open Europe, it was full of drama, which you can go back and watch on YouTube. All of these races are free to watch again and again, and all the qualifying sessions. And of course, obviously you're going to hear our voices, but the sounds of these cars. We have a lot of onboards, we have a lot of just following these cars around, and there's 7 different brands here, I think, this weekend. Only 1 Honda. Previously we've had 3 Hondas, and we're hopefully seeing another brand appear in 2022 as well.
Robbie Foley in the Aston Martin, the sole Aston. You just got a glimpse of the 97 TF Sport car. Robbie's taken that to P4 at the moment. And just behind was Marcos Pavarud, who's about to set a quick time in the Honda. Car 11 in 8th place at the moment, behind Dominic Schrammel. As we look at car 7, one of the 2 McLarens in the field. Brendan Irebe and Ollie Milroy. Down in position 14 at the moment, on a flying lap as we approach the halfway point of the final qualifying session of the 2021 International GTOpen Championship. Andy Soucek still down in pit lane, has not yet set a time, has not ventured out onto the track yet. Saw his championship disappear yesterday, was in the hunt right up until the end. But the championship has been decided. Andy Soucek looking to go out on a high. At the moment, he's down in 29th and last place, has not set a time. And in position 28 as Gerhard Twereza goes through in the 17 HP Racing International Lamborghini. So 1 and 2 in the championship are last and second last on the grid at the moment. Andy Soucek just waiting for the track to warm up another couple of degrees. Robbie Foley in the Aston Martin pulls into pit lane as we watch Gerhard Twereza in car 17, the Austrian sharing it with the German. Jan Seifert, who had a great run yesterday, consistently in the top 5. They were really quick. You can see the green tiger painted on the underside of the rear wing of the HP racing car. Currently in position 5 and looking to improve. It's not a bad lap at the moment as he makes his way up through the final stages of this lap. We passed the halfway point of the session. The 51 AF Corsa Ferrari out on the circuit as well. Oswaldo Negri, the Brazilian-American driver. So much experience from Oswaldo racing in his home nation. More recently over in the IMSA series in the United States of America. Looking to set a time, one of 2 AF Corsa Ferrari cars. As Andy Soucek makes his way out onto the circuit. Oswaldo Negri accelerates, the shadows starting to dissipate as the sun rises here in Barcelona, the final round of the GTOpen International Championship. A clean lap so far from Oswaldo Negri. That's Nicolas van Dierendonck going through. A super consistent performer is the Belgian. Really enjoying his run in the 2021 GT Cup class and mixing it with some of the GT3 drivers on occasion. The Q1 entry, a lot of experience racing in Porsche Carrera Cup in the north of Europe, also the Belcar series. See where he is at the moment. At the moment, it is Maciej Liszowski, despite that incident in pit lane, who is the top of the time, 17th outright for Liszowski in the Cup class category.
And Gerard Therese has just had his fastest lap time deleted, but he remains in 5th place, so his second best time is still good enough to keep himself on the 3rd row of the grid provisionally. We've still got our Oxford Motorsport McLarens in the pits, both of the Vincenzo Sospiri Lambos, the Aston Martin of Robbie Foley, but he has already gone out there and he's 4th fastest at the moment, and the winning car from yesterday, the 2C's Motorsport Mercedes.
Actually, it was Dirk Schouten behind the wheel of the 53 car. There's Adam Carroll, who pulls out from Philip Toenkens and gets a little bit of a tow. There's the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes going down into turn 1. Adam Carroll currently in position 7 in the Sol Audi R8 racing here in the final round of the GTOpen Championship. Just behind his car 50, that's Bas Schouten. Great to see the drivers from the Benelux region racing with us in the GT Cup class. Of course, they were mixing it with the outright GT3 cars in the rain at the previous round at Monza. Andy Soucek out on track finally to try and set a time. Don't be surprised if he puts it somewhere right near the pointy end of the grid. Could even potentially snatch pole position if he gets a perfect run. At the moment, he's down in 27th and 3rd last. I don't expect that to stay the case, or remain the case, by the end of this lap. The Lechner Racing Porsche, the legendary team of Walter Lechner. Andy Soucek, his 2nd home race of 2021, the half Austrian, the half Spanish driver for the German team here in Spain. Andy Soucek. Won't be this lap, it'll be the next time round as he just gets a little bit of extra heat into the Michelin tyres and looks for clear track space. Loris Spinelli, for the moment, is on provisional pole on Thomas Drouet. Joe Osborne, P3 at the moment. In the McLaren, we ride on board with Andy Soucek, looking for clear space. There's car 50 of Bas Schouten just ahead, down through the chicane. He'll try and get the run. He might have timed this absolutely perfectly. Won't get bought through turn 16, but may well get something of a tow coming onto the straight. Andy Soucek winds up to try and start a lap that may well put the 77 Lechner Porsche on pole position, certainly up near the front of the grid. Does get a bit of a tow and can just edge down into the traditional racing line. Andy Soucek starts his first flying lap here in the final qualifying session of 2021. Spinelli, Drouet, Osborne, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Robbie Foley, P4 in the Aston Martin. Gerhard Therese currently in position 5. Carol Bash, P6 in the 777. Olympic Racing Mercedes. They had, well, let's just say an eventful race yesterday, coming together with Jan Seifert, with Gerhard Therese, did Carol Bash yesterday. And they're currently 5th and 6th respectively on the grid. Andy Soucek, a clean lap for the Spanish driver.
Yeah, although it does look like the rear end's getting a little slidey in some places. Michele Bretta is back on track in that taped up Vincenzo Suspiria Racing Lamborghini Huracan. They're currently down in 28th place. That's the last penultimate row of the grid, and they won the title yesterday. Potentially, they've just seen Andy Soucek go out. He's going to pull himself back up the order, and they're going, well, we still want to be ahead of our previous title rivals, so we'll make sure we can be. Soucek obviously had traffic at the very start of the lap. It looks like the tyres aren't really, you know, answering. They're not biting the track as he wants.
It does still look nervous slightly.
Yeah, particularly when it was coming downhill as well. The rear end was just slipping away from him. Through the chicane is a good example of seeing how hooked up a car is. Looks pretty clean there. He's going to come through the final corner now. You obviously can use the curbing to actually help you turn in. Comes onto the pit straight. He was in 15th place. He now goes up to 5th, 1 second off pole position at 1 minute 44.667. Loris Pinelli still in the pits, but still provisionally on pole position.
A 1:43.599 for the Italian in the Italian Antonelli Motorsport team. So it's still a Mercedes on top after the Mercedes finished 1-2 in race 1 yesterday. In fact, Mercedes 1 and 2 because Thomas Drouet in the ACA Sport car is in 2nd place. Andy Soucek currently in P5, starts his 2nd flying lap. Gerhard Theresa drops back to P6 ahead of Baptiste Moulin, who finished on the podium yesterday with Yuki Nomoto. Michele Beretta has gone back out and moved from the back of the grid up into 18th place. The championship winning car is halfway through the grid, but he's still got another 8 minutes, as have all these drivers, to try and improve their positions. Carol Bash goes to P2. The pole almost snatches pole in the 777 Olympia Racing Mercedes. So Mercedes cars 1, 2, 3. Spinelli, Bash, and Thomas Drouet 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Carol Bash just 1/10 of a second off pole position. Spinelli with a 43.599. Bash with a 43.775. Then Thomas Drouet 43.923 as we watch Andy Soucek in the German Porsche try and knock the German Mercedes cars from the top spot. That was a stunning time from Carol Bash. You look at that 777 Olymp Racing car, the Polish team, the Polish drivers, the 2015 World Cup Racing champion. Grid 2 at the moment. Andy Soucek comes across the line.
Stays in 8th place. It looks like he lost down. Yeah, he lost a lot of time in that first sector. Ollie Milroy now up to 2nd place. Yeah, just 600ths of a second off Spinelli. In our GT Cup Open Europe battle, Eugenio Pisani lost his fastest laps. He's dropped 2 places, and the Artianos car still isn't on track. That is because at the end of yesterday's race, they had a monumental crash. That's quite a weird crash to watch, but it destroyed the front end of that car, and they won't be taking part, it looks like, in this session at all. The number 72 McLaren in the pits at the moment, that's Joe Osborne. He's still in 5th place. Thomas Drouet in 4th is technically on class pole for the pro class. You'd normally expect them to be at the very front, but at the moment they're a 1/3 of a second off the pace of Spinelli, who at times this year has looked absolutely unstoppable in that Antonelli Mercedes. We're going to now follow the number 7 Inception car. Looks like potentially he's backed off there, looking for a bit more space. So going into that final sector of the lap, you want as much clear air as possible so you can go incredibly fast into the final corner and then start your next flying lap.
Ollie Milroy in car 7, currently on position 2. So if anyone, any car can break the Mercedes dominance here this weekend, it may well be the McLarens, who are currently 2nd and 5th on the grid. This is Carroll, who is briefly up into P2s, dropped back to 3rd. Not a bad lap at the moment. Incidentally, Ollie Milroy last time round through the speed trap, 266 kilometres an hour. The quickest of anybody was the McLaren.
That would be 154 miles an hour, I think.
For our viewers watching in the United Kingdom, the United States, and
anywhere else that uses that system. Yeah.
Any other country, there's about 15 of them that refuse to embrace the metric system. Either way, it is really quick on what is not a high-speed track. 266 k's an hour in the McLaren as Carroll backs out of it.
And in the GT Cup Open Europe battle, Dirk Schouten currently ahead of Bas Schouten, but only by 0.144 seconds for the pole position in that class. They're currently down in 19th and 20th overall, but obviously they're fighting against each other more importantly than anyone else. It looks like the Olymp Mercedes has slowed down, also looking for a bit of space. Michele Beretta, though, is on the pace. He is currently down in, and let's look, he's moved up the order. He's in 13th place, but he's improving. His teammate, Baptiste Moulin's in 9th place, just behind Andy Soucek. Then Robbie Foley in 7th, and our leading pro class car, Thomas Drouet, in that Mercedes, still 0.324 seconds off pole. There's 4.5 minutes left of this session. We've got pretty much everyone back on track, so a lot of the drivers, including this 87 car that we're looking at now, Drouet did spend time in the pits. They probably bolted on a fresh set of Michelin tyres, and they're coming out now. The track's warmed up a little bit more. There's more rubber laid down. They've generally just got faster, that they can probably have time for 2 push laps and one kind of out lap, or a lap where you think about doing a push lap, but then you need to actually slow down a bit to find some space on track so you can have clean air on your pole, or the lap you want to do for pole. And that is how they're going to play out the strategy here. We now look back at the McLaren, comes through the final corner. I think just kept the front right tyre within the track limits there, but it was very, very close. Comes to complete the lap, and it's provisional pole position, 1 minute 43.4, so that's a 10th and a half up on Loris Spinelli. But Spinelli is back on track. Here is a replay of those final few corners for the number 7 car driven by Ollie Milroy. So a clean entry into the chicane. You can see actually the wheel doing a lot of work there, the wheel nut, the inside of the tyre, the sidewall, and obviously the sports cars have bigger wheels but quite small tyres, so that sidewall is very thin, and we're a bit too zoomed in to actually see if he's actually exceeded track limits or not, but we did get to see the driver at the wheel, so that's pretty cool. Milroy, 10th and a half up on Spinelli. Bash, another 10th and a half back from that, and Drouet in 4th. Adam Carroll in 5th. We haven't spoken too much about him today, but the Audi, that is the highest Audi in the timesheet at the moment. Have we seen an Audi qualify that high up at Barcelona and GTOpen before? I'm not quite sure, but an impressive job so far.
Sean and Adam telling us yesterday after the race that it's not a track that does suit the Audi car, but they've done it. Oh, Adam's done a superb job to put it in P5. Speaking of a superb job, Ollie Milroy, currently on provisional pole position. We watch his teammate Joe Osborne come across the line. It's a good lap. He goes purple in sector 1, purple in sector 2, provisional pole. And the McLarens briefly go 1-2. Osborne with a 43.085, a stunning time. Immediately, Thomas Drouet crosses the line behind, but he's 0.3 of a second behind the McLarens, 1-3 on the grid. Joe Osborne down through the chicane in the Inception Racing McLaren. So the Mercedes, which were 1, 2, 3 on the grid at the moment, they're 2, 4 and 5. The McLarens 1st and 3rd on the grid with just a couple of minutes remaining.
And that's because one of the Mercedes, Ethan Simeoni, actually had his fastest lap deleted, so he's down to 18th place. He's just set a new lap, which wasn't as good as his previous one, but it's brought him back up to 6th place. Still 0.8 of a second off pole position. The two Vincenzo Spiri Lambos, they're now down in 12th and 14th. Andy Soucek and the Leclerc Racing Porsche in 11th. So the tighter contending cars really aren't having it easy in this session. Michele Beretta, though, is improving. He's just at his personal best, only good enough for 12th, though, so that puts him ahead of Moulin. We're following the McLaren and the Mercedes, which basically are 2 pole fighting cars at the moment, coming down into the final sector of the lap.
This is ominous because he's gone purple in the 1st sector, a personal best in the 2nd sector, almost being matched by Joe Osborne, who is still on provisional pole. The car on your screen with Jim Pla behind the wheel yesterday took pole position. Thomas Drouet, the 2 French drivers for the ACA Sport team down through the chicane. Can they make it 2 pole positions in 24 hours? It's a good lap from Thomas, exits turn 16. He'll get another lap in. We're into the final minute of the final qualifying session of 2021. Comes across the line. Osborne still on pole. Can Thomas Drouet improve? The answer is no, not for the moment.
He does improve, but not enough to change the position. So he's now at 0.113 off rather than 0.16 off the pole position time of Joe Osborne at the moment. But with 28 seconds to go, he's only going to have one more chance at this. Looking at the Lambos, they've slid even further down the order now. Moulin in 14th. Actually got Korzeniowski in the M-Class car ahead of one of the Lambos now.
Brendan Irib down in pit lane watching his teammate Ollie Milroy, who was briefly on pole position. Ollie in car 7 in position 3. This is the current pole sitter in the dying stages. In fact, there is the checkered flag. So Joe Osborne, who has got so much experience racing in GT racing over the past decade, not only in Europe in the British GT series, also in the Asian series when it was possible to race over in that part of the world. He's on provisional pole position with a 43 dead at the moment. Ethan Simeone, yesterday's race winner, a slight correction as he climbs the hill for the final time. Ethan Simeone in car 9 in position 7. Robbie Foley crosses the line, so it is P5. There is confirmation at the top of your screen. That was expected, so Michele Beretta cannot take pole position. He's in position 12, so it's grid 15 at best for the championship winning car. Ethan Simeone, car 9, in position 7. Foley will start grid 5 at the moment. Down through the chicane, can the Canadian improve as that checkered flag waves? It is still Joe Osborne for the moment on pole position from Thomas Drouet, who pulls into pit lane. Spinelli goes P4. Ethan Simeone across the line, knocks Carol Bash out of P6, the Canadian into 6th place. Gerhard Tuareza in P8. Joe Osborne crosses the line, does not improve. It's a 43 dead. It looks as though Joe will take pole position. Ethan Simeone, as you look at yesterday's race winning car, a slight correction on his final flying lap. Not once, but twice, almost. Wow, so close. Runs off the track, so close to the gravel, keeps the Michelins on the asphalt, just nicely held by Ethan. It will be grid 6 for the Canadian for race 2, the final race of 2021. Gerhard Teresa has crossed the line. Car 17 will start position 8. Joe Osborne has taken pole position for the final race of 2021. The Mercedes dominance this weekend at Barcelona has been broken. The Inception Racing McLaren team start 1-3 on the grid. Osborne, car 72, the pole sitter for the final race of the 2021 International GTOpen Championship.
And we saw that replay of Ethan Simeone. All 4 wheels were entirely over the outside curb, the white line, and then onto the additional runoff. Therefore, I don't think that lap time's going to remain. He's provisionally in 6th. He might drop to 7th, but a 3-place grid penalty has been handed out to car 63 for an unsafe release. That was the incident we saw with Vincenzo Sospiri Lambo in the middle of this session. They qualified 12th fastest. That means they are going to start 15th, just behind their teammate, because Baptiste Moulin could only go 14th.
Joe Osborne, congratulations to the Inception Racing team. We'll start from pole position together with Nick Moss for the final race of the 2021 Championship. Pole position yesterday for car 87. It is grid 2 this morning for Thomas Drouet for the ACA Sport team, and Ollie Milroy, Inception Racing 1-3 on the grid. Spinelli, Foley P5 in the Aston. Simeone, yesterday's race winner, edges. Carol Bash, car 777 P7. Tuareza, Adam Carroll P9, and Andy Suchek down in 10th place. Pavarud, Michele Beretta, grid 12, but a three position penalty means yesterday's championship winning car will start from grid 15 ahead of Korsanowski. Good result from Christian. Moulin also down in P14. Schrammel, Diaz Varela, Hugo Delacour, Oswaldo Negri, Dirk Shelton, and Jan Lorison as we get into the Cup class category cars. Bas Shelton, Maciej Liszowski, Albert Estragues, Fortes, Eugenio Pisani, speaker was Klingelberg, Oscar Aristot, and Arta Janos. Joe Osborne, the pole sitter for the final race of the championship, is down in pit lane with Alfredo. Let's hear from Joe now.
Joe Osborne, pole position. We are getting used to that. Huh?
Yeah, it's a nice feeling to get some consistency on pole position. So 3 in a row, 3 this year in GTOpen, and yeah, credit to the team. Obviously, the cars are beautiful to drive. All of our cars are McLaren, but Optima Inception have got this one hooked up today. So it's very rare in the qualifying. We do 2 sets of tyres, and we made no setup changes in between. That's how happy I was with the car. The most difficult thing was with the traffic. There's 30 cars on the grid. We have the Cup cars, which obviously are a fair bit slower. So managing to find a gap is difficult, but it adds a dynamic to qualifying, which is interesting, if not frustrating when you get held up.
But today there is a sense of relaxation, I think. All the titles are are decided. Inception Racing has secured the Pro-Am title. How you see the race this afternoon?
Yeah, you're 100% right as ever, and we've got nothing to play for. Unfortunately, obviously, we lost 2 rounds with Nick's accident at Spa, so the championship was never in the mix. So, yeah, Nick's a good guy. He's pretty aggressive, and he tells me also to be aggressive. So, yesterday, you could see our car after the race. Every single panel had damage on it. We have the same ethos in today's race on the front foot. Hopefully, we can't get damage on the front because we're in P1. So, if I'm hitting someone up the back, I've done a bad start, basically.
I'm sure we will enjoy the show this afternoon, and you will enjoy the driving.
Exactly. I'll try and make it a show as best I can for everyone back home, especially in the UK.
Well done. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Joe Osborne from the United Kingdom will start from pole position. His teammate Ollie Milroy in car 7, third on the grid, sharing it with the American Brandon Ireb. Second for yesterday's pole sitting car, Thomas Drouet for the ACCA Sport Team, and Joe Osborne in car 72, sharing the car with Nick Moss. We'll start from pole position. Well, the championship might be decided for 2021, but there is still one final fight for the GTOpen International Championship. The final race of the final round. We'll see you at 20 minutes past 1 for the final race of the GTOpen Championship this afternoon.